Let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Thicc Radio, the podcast where we talk about gaming and everything in its orbit. I'm James.
And I'm Tim. So let's get this started. How you doing?
Yeah, look, I'm doing okay. It's oh god, what is it? 10 o'clock at night here, which means it's going to be 5 o'clock in the afternoon there.
Yeah, early evening.
Yeah,
Sun's still out, still shining. The weather is very nice today, so I'm trying to enjoy that while it lasts because I live in northern Ohio and the weather can change within 5 minutes. So when the sun's out and the weather's warm, you got to get out and enjoy it.
true. I'm learning life here in London, even though they have a discernible winter period. There's also this sort of second winter that likes to creep up on you after about a week of sun, and we've just had that. So now I'm in second spring, and I don't know what comes next.
I think we're in pretty much the same climate, honestly. Like, I don't know latitude and longitude wise, where London and Cleveland would sync up that way. But
Yeah.
I'm imagining it's not that different because we get a little taste of spring, say about late March, early April. Nice warm front comes through, the flowers are in bloom, there's a wonderful breeze coming in, the sun is shining, and then a week later we go into a deep freeze and there's a shitload of snow that falls and kills everything, breaks several trees, and then so all of a sudden it's on an upswing again. So we've got kind of like a bipolar thing going on with our weather.
I'm learning to live with that in the Northern Hemisphere. I do feel like back home, obviously our seasons are on the opposite schedule. So, mid-year, like this is when the wet season is starting back home. And so that's when all the floods are going to come in and the rains and all that. And then around September, October, the springtime will hit. And then by the end of my birthday, it'll be full-blown summer for the next 6 months. So,
So that's so weird for someone like I've only lived in the Northern Hemisphere my whole life. And, I can see when the seasons change. My birthday is in the summer here. So like if I moved to the Southern Hemisphere and all of a sudden my birthday is during the winter, I'd be like, this is really fucking with my head. Like I'm used to like being able to sit out by a pool on my birthday, and I'm used to like 90-degree heat and all this humidity and like just being able to chill and do, barbecue and all this stuff. So like I wouldn't know how to deal with that if all of a sudden my birthday fell in the middle of winter.
it's definitely weird. Like back home, they have a little rhyme that says, when the flower of the jacaranda tree is here, Christmas time is near. Because we have these beautiful trees, and I think I've shown them to you before, actually.
You have, yeah.
They look like a regular green tree, just a tree with some green foliage. And then something happens when it's midsummer and everything's at its hottest. They just go wham, and all that green turns into the most beautiful pink. And you find out just how many jacaranda trees are about, because the city goes from like a city with green trees to just this almost Japanese inspired cherry blossom fantasy with these beautiful, vibrant pink, purple petals that will just descend. It will carpet the streets. You won't be able to see the road, but it's beautiful and the kids love it. It's such a vibrant place to experience summer.
I'm going to let the listeners know, okay, the way you know that spring has come to a place like Cleveland and probably some of the states in New England is there is a very popular tree that was planted in almost every city because when it flowers, it looks lovely. It's got lovely little white petals. But the way that you can tell that spring has arrived is if it smells like come outside, because this tree admits the smell of jizz. And when you go outside, you take a big whiff of the fresh air and you're like, this smells like cum. You're like, yeah, spring is here.
I heard about this. Apparently they were super cheap. It's some kind of pear.
Yeah, it's a Bradford pear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like...
But because they all planted the same gender of tree, we don't actually get fruit-bearing trees. You get the white blossoms and the smell of jizz everywhere.
Isn't it amazing that, we're so distantly related to trees on the genetic ladder, and yet cum still smells like cum.
Yep.
No matter which life form is.
You're just walking down the city street on a lovely, April afternoon and the sun's shining and just get a big old whiff of jizz.
delicious. Oh my gosh. Okay, so listen, we're actually going to be talking today about something a little different. We're talking about leather and the leather community. So before we kind of get started into things, I'm the novice. Tim is you're relatively well versed in the leather community, aren't you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say expert by any means, but I have been doing it for over a decade now. So, I have been to a leather event every year, except for obviously last year because of COVID. And this year it's actually moving to a different location, which sucks. It's not going to be held in my city anymore. But I go to the leather bar rather regularly, and many of the people in my circle of friends are leather people. So it's safe to say I know a fair amount.
Yeah, I would definitely classify that as relative mastery at that point. So listen, I'll put this out there. My understanding of leather is very basic, and I only kind of know it from the clear context that I can relate to it in. So leather is obviously it's I don't know if others would classify it as a fetish or a kink or whatever, but from what I see, it's definitely an aesthetic driven thing.
Yeah.
People love to don leather and they love to don it in the typical ways in which leather has been worn traditionally. So with things like jackets, caps, collars, usually with some kind of metallic stud in it. So it's very reminiscent of like biker culture, maybe to an extent. There's usually some kind of cigar moment. I'm
Yeah,
noticing.
yeah, that's very popular.
So I think there's a sort of throwback to sort of maybe 60s masculinity and that kind of a vibe.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? That's
And that may be its inception. I mean, so like human beings have worn leather all throughout history.
yeah.
The first clothes that we created were from animal hide. So leather has been around since time immemorial, but the aesthetic that we are currently like going with would probably be based on what you're talking about, like the 50s, 60s sort of biker culture, kind of like the uber symbol of masculinity at that time.
Yeah, like the male cast of Greece got old, never changed their leather jackets, and just like stuck around in gay bars sucking dick. Like
Yeah.
that's my understanding. Because there's something else to it, right? Like in my experience, I've never seen a young guy do leather. Like I generally only see daddies 40 plus really donning leather. And in my mind, I'm thinking, because to be fair, like I'm from Perth, it's a small town, there's not much of a community. All the gay guys probably grew up in a wave together and sort of joined together like that. Uh, so there's that point. But I don't know. I saw them all wearing leather. I didn't see young guys wearing it. And I was a bit like, oh, maybe that was just the fashion that they all wore at the time and they're just reliving the glory days. Like, I don't have a relative point of reference for that. But having moved to London, there is a bar here called the Eagle. It's in Vauxhall, gay area. And it is very much like a kink and sex driven location. And it is primarily a leather bar where if you go on any given night, people are there, docked and frocked in all sorts of bits and bobs. So look, I'm, as I say, a novice. I know relatively nothing about this. What do you think? Like, can you give me like a snapshot overview? Like, what do they call it? The elevator pitch?
I guess I've never heard that expression before.
The idea is like, oh, you've managed to sneak your way past security, the CEO, he's stepping into the elevator, you dodge the guards, you jump into the elevator as the doors close. He looks at you and says, that's cool. You have until I reach my floor, which is usually the top floor, to sell me your idea before I kick you out.
Oh, I don't know if I could do it in that small amount of time, because like the way that the leather community works in my area, and I'll be frank, that's really the only exposure I've truly had. Like, yes, I've met people from other communities when I've attended events, but my core group is like, where I live, obviously.
Of course.
And many of them say that it's a lifestyle for them. Like for me, it's not really a lifestyle. Like my primary lifestyle is as a gainer, obviously.
Right.
My secondary is as a leather person. And I was introduced to it, I think it's about 11 years ago now, and I walked into it a novice as well. And fortunately found a couple of leather men who were from Canada, actually, who took me under their wing and sort of taught me everything, sort of showed me the ropes, like explained what it was. And yes, part of it is an aesthetic. Leather looks good on people. Like there's a lot of gear and clothing pieces that like look fucking amazing on people. But when they say it's a lifestyle, I think it means that they're committed to this lifestyle of like, I am a kinky person. I'm going to be out about it. I have no shame to it whatsoever, and I have to give back. Like I have to have some kind of activism in this. I have to help other people out when they first discover the fetish, or I have to organize events to make sure that we get like good, adequate representation. I think that's what they usually mean by lifestyle.
Interesting. So a little bit like and not the binary is the big thing these days, but a little bit like how drag queens as performers are very on the hyper feminine side of things in terms of expression, leading the way and being political. Leather almost then seems the opposite, where it's the hyper masculine and, in the similar sort of way, being political, being activists, and having a
Yes.
themselves as well.
And the leather, and this is a bad leather person. I mean, smack my hand for not knowing more about, because I know that if you wanted to say there was a birthplace for the leather movement for LGBTQ people, it happened in San Francisco, and it happened in the Castro district, and then the Stonewall riot happened, and like a lot of the leather people were involved in activism after that. They were very involved in ACT UP. So it's just been kind of a slow evolution to where the leather community is today. And there is something of like a subdivision here within the leather community.
Right.
You have what we call old guard. And when we say old guard, we mean the guys that were kind of there for all of those activism years. We're talking about leather daddies who at this point are over 60. They were in San Francisco when a lot of this stuff happened. They were there for those ACT UP riots. They were there for all of that activism that happened around the AIDS crisis. And they have a very particular way of viewing things. They have a very particular way of doing things. They're very much like, there is a process, there is a hierarchy, there is a level of respect. And then you have new guard. New guard would be people my age and younger. So like the millennial generation that came into leather and was like, ooh, what's this? This is cool. I'm going to run with it. But not giving their proper dues. Unfortunately, there are quite a few. This is kind of a blight on the younger new guard. Like we have not shown adequate respect and understanding of how we got this far. So that's kind of like that's a long conversation, but yeah, there's like that going on too.
But to be fair, like I think that even stems from the queer community at large, because I know when I first came out, I didn't have an understanding of where things came from. No one told me about Stonewall. I didn't know where things started. I knew nothing. I only knew what people in my town knew. And to be fair, there were people who knew bits and pieces, and like that's good and everything. But like there is something to be said that the more you go out in the world and interact with people, you find out very quickly that there are a lot of queer people, and by queer people, I do mean gay men, who love to benefit from the fact that they can go out, get coked up, twirl, have a great old faggoty time out and about, and don't seem to feel any sense of concern or pride even for what came before. I think I've made this point on the podcast. Homosexuality wasn't decriminalized in certain Australian states until 1997. I was 5 at the time. Homosexuality as a jailable offense, as a death by penalty offense in certain places in the world, still at the moment, and we love to forget about it because it doesn't affect us now. And we just go, oh, well, that's not my problem. So I think that there is very much a generational issue where you have people who are quite a bit older substantially, who did the hard work and know what it's about. People who are quite a bit younger who don't have that respect. And I think a big portion of that is because we lost the generation in between to the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah. That's very true.
There's very little mentorship that goes on in the queer community. And, you and I have spoken about this a little bit before. There is definitely a desire to see something really happen for the queer community in general, but definitely where we are in the world, there is a desire to see a sense of connection and finding elders to have respect for, because they are there and they do hard work and they've done their dues. They have very much been the people at the forefront. So there is something to that, and I think it's a generational thing that we, especially the youngins, need to be mindful of when we encounter our elders.
Yes, absolutely.
Putting that out there to people. So you mentioned like leather's not so much a lifestyle for you because gaining is your lifestyle.
Hmm.
What discovery really came first for you? Was it leather or gaining?
Gaining definitely came first because I had been aware of that since discovering the internet. Like we talked about in the golden age of gaining, how I had gone on and found belly builders and gainer web and all that stuff. Leather entered my life because of my ex-husband. He was a leather person, and looking back on it, he really was not that dedicated to it. I honestly think that in his mind, it was just something that made him look good and somewhere where he could be popular, because he was one of those attention whores that
Yeah.
he always had to be the center of attention. So I actually ended up finding something about it that I loved on my own, and really felt connected to it in ways that I don't even think he did. And I have to credit a lot of it to those two sirs that I met from Canada, because they were really wonderful when it came to their mentorship. And I went to, there's a leather event that usually happens every year here in Cleveland called Claw. And I went to one of them just because I wanted to see what it was about. And it was a bit of overwhelming at first, honestly. It was kind of like being pushed in the deep end of the kink pool. It's like there's so much stuff going on and there were so many things to see. And I was like, I don't know, am I going to fit into this in any way? Like, am I going to feel like I'm a part of this? Because there was a lot of stuff I wasn't comfortable with.
Okay.
But over time, like I learned to like, because like, okay, so you're walking into the venue, and they shut the hotel down to regular guests, right? So
Good.
everyone that's there is supposed to be there for that event. So they let you get away with a lot of stuff, like as long as you're not completely nude, just walking around with like cock and balls hanging out. They usually turn a blind eye to everything. So it was very normal to be walking down the hallway into one of the ballrooms where they would be setting up demonstrations and whatnot, and you see somebody's getting flogged, or
Right.
you see someone's getting spanked, or you see someone is tied up in a cage, or someone is like decked out head to toe in either leather or rubber. And like the puppies, that was something that threw me for a loop the first time I saw it. I don't know where was I going with this.
Well, it's interesting you kind of say that because something that came to mind for me is this idea, and I don't know if this was your intention or not, but I'm kind of getting this sense that leather almost acts as like both an entryway into the world of kink itself and also a nexus point where it really seems like there is a lot of offshoot that seems to happen from leather. Because I can immediately think of like, oh yeah, obviously I know of a lot of BDSM communities and everyone knows about pups these days, and who hasn't heard of flogging and spanking and get masks and kept in cages. But it's interesting that it all really seems to root from leather, which is based in that sense of hypermasculinity and this sort of adoration of manhood and the expression and exploration of that. So that's kind of the sense that I'm getting from leather thus far.
Yeah, there are a lot of offshoots that you wouldn't expect. I mean, I guess because it's the most accessible kink, that it then opens the door for, because if you think about it, like what if your kink is just straight up you like to wear leather clothes? Well, obviously, like that's the most accessible thing because you can go buy leather apparel anywhere,
Literally.
and then you just show up and you're decked out in your outfit or whatever, and you're around other people that are wearing the same thing. But then like you do get exposed to things like the flogging, the spanking, the people in cages, the puppies, the electro stim play, which was something that was brand new to me. Yeah, so there's so many crossroads with leather and other fetishes that I don't think you realize until you actually like go and see it for yourself.
Hmm. So, I mean, with that said, there's a lot of intersection there. I'm curious, how does leather intersect with gaining?
I didn't think it did for a long time. Long time, I didn't think it did. Like there was always the leather events that I've gone to. There's just a plethora of body sizes. They're not all cookie cutter. They're not all supermodels with ripped abs and bulging biceps. There are bears, there are chubs, there are the rail thin people. There are even some women show up sometimes. They're kind of, we'll talk about that in a minute, but yeah, unfortunately there's a bit of a stigma there, but there's no lack of diversity in the leather community, and we're talking about not just body sizes but shapes, skin colors, religious backgrounds, careers. Some of these people are like heart surgeons. So
It's pretty
yeah,
cool.
there's a big group, diversity pool there. And I've lost my thought again. Fuck.
You were thinking about some real hot surgeon gonna.
I was just thinking about like the experiences that I've had at Claw, because that's really honestly, that's the only one that I go to because it happens to be in my own backyard. And because the other ones are in like DC and Chicago, and they're a lot more expensive. So, I tended to stick to home.
That's fair. We were talking about where gaining intersects
Oh,
with.
where it intersects. That's right. I didn't think it did. But then one Claw, I want to say it was about 4 years ago, I saw that they were going to have it because they Claw actually has like seminars, like where they will teach you
Okay.
things. Like, say you don't know anything about flogging, they have a class on it. So you go and you learn this is how to do it correctly. This is how to do it safely. This is, they're really big on education at Claw.
That's amazing.
So yeah, I know, right? And I was looking through the roster of classes and I was like, holy shit, there is a class on gaining and encouraging. I never thought that I would see that because it just didn't seem like something that would, cross over in leather at all. So I went and I met the guy who was running the class, who is my feeder friend from Indiana, and this is
Oh,
this was the beginning of our friendship. Um, there was a pretty substantial crowd. I want to say there was at least 30 of us in that room, and he presented it in a lot of the ways that we present it. Like it's a lifestyle choice. He ticks off a lot of the stuff that we have talked about thus far. And it was the first time that I was like really open about it, and I was actively participating. I was asking questions, I was giving my own anecdotes, um, and then we ended up talking after the class was over, and had a great time because he ended up feeding me later. But yeah.
oh,
So and then I actually started teaching the class with him after that first year. It
wow.
was the two of us, we started doing it. And so yeah, I was surprised that there was a desire to go to a class like that. And this last time that we were able to do it, when the event was actually being held, we actually didn't have a very big crowd, which was a bit disappointing. There were too many classes that were scheduled at the same time. So like people had to choose, do I want to go to the rope binding class or do I want to go to the gainer encourager class? Well, the rope binding won out.
Binding. Yeah.
Yeah. So but yeah, I don't know what my problem is, but I can't seem like when you open the door to leather, my brain starts going to too many different places.
You can't see it, but I can actually see it on your face. Like you get caught in the memory and it takes you in a certain direction, and I'm like, and we lost it.
I know, shit. I apologize to the listeners for being so uncoordinated with my answers today.
No, it's fine. Listen, girl, editing powers. she'll make sure we shave down on some of the moments, but it's fine. It's also really enjoyable because much like we try to encourage our guests on any other episode, we want to hear these anecdotes, we want to hear these stories because it's those real experiences that maybe inform people the most about those moments. So in my mind, the idea that I kind of have from what you're saying is like part of what gaining is lifestyle. You walk in your body, you wear your body, your meat suit, you style it to look a certain type of way, and clothing is something you put over the top to accentuate that style. I imagine that's where it intersects with leather as well, where yes, of course, leather, you like the feel of it, the look of it, the culture, the masculinity, this, that, the other. But clearly there's that moment of guys who go, because some people do say like, oh yeah, I feel more masculine when I'm fat. I feel more in my manhood. Because this is the point I made previously on an episode. I think we were talking about queerness that time.
Mm-hmm.
It's this sense of masculinity in me from my gaining journey, which is very strange. But I can imagine the appeal then in leather, especially when I'm feeling the fantasy in that moment. You put a bit of leather gear on me, and I'm going to be like, yeah,
Oh,
daddy.
absolutely.
Yeah, gonna.
Because I mean, like, say when you've got your leather boots on that come up to that are knee high, you've got a harness on, you've got like a leather vest on, you've got your gauntlets on, you kind of feel like a superhero, and you kind of look like one. I mean, there's many a superhero that's been styled on leather, so like you do kind of feel like that badass sort of like fuck yeah, you know.
What was it? Someone did a runway recently and it was fabric cut to look a certain way, but it looked like a harness.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like harnesses and yarnesses. It looked like someone had like styled this undercrop to do with a blazer to look a certain type of way, like it was an under thing that's meant to hold it. But it was a fucking harness made of leather. And,
Hmm.
well, I don't know if it was made of leather, but it was fashion. But like leather's out there, these things are
Well, it's
cultural.
interesting because you know who appropriated that a lot was some of these designers like Andrew Christian, who started creating harnesses made out of well, not velcro,
Like
lycra, or
elastic or something.
that elastic band. Like there was a really popular one that I saw going around that was like very strappy and like came over the front and across the
Oh, that
pecs and
sounds
like
very
down around the,
Marco as well.
huh.
Marco from Los Angeles.
Yeah,
Sounds very that as
they
well.
really appropriated that because you didn't really see harnesses in any other fashion sense
Now
beyond
everyone's got
leather,
fucking
and now they're
harnesses.
kind of everywhere.
It's funny how that happens. Swings and roundabouts. No one gives a shit for 40 years, and then something happens, and bam, everybody wants a piece.
And I have a couple of harnesses that are made of lycra and velcro. Not, why am I saying velcro? What is the material, that the elastic band? Because
I,
that's really what it is. It's like a nylon elastic band or whatever. But I have a
you're
couple that are
thinking
made of
nylon.
that. Yeah, I could be thinking nylon.
Yeah.
I have a
You
couple that are made out of neoprene too.
now neoprene's cute. Like, okay, because now we're talking a little bit about fabrics. So like leather is like the OG fabric material
Yes.
related thing.
Yeah.
From there, obviously, you've got everyone knows about rubber,
Hmm.
latex, lycra, neoprene. I feel like neoprene is the new one. Neoprene is kind of like it's a thicker material, holds
It's
its shape,
thicker, it's lightweight. Like it's much like, because when you're wearing a lot of leather, it's very heavy. Leather is a very heavy
and it
material.
doesn't breathe, does it?
No, not at all. But neoprene doesn't exactly breathe either. I mean, it's basically wetsuit material. That's what wetsuits are made out of.
Yeah, because I've got a pup hood made of neoprene, and don't get me wrong, it's cute and soft, and I love it. But I think there are certain like angles I could hold myself at where I feel more comfortable wearing it. Whereas, like, I think if I had to be like donned in a whole bunch of things, I'd get like very panicky very, very quickly because I think the heat and the enclosure you'd get very.
Oh, honey, I have seen guys like full on. These were rubber puppies, full on like latex head to toe hood, at not 1 inch of skin showing, down on all fours with the butt plug tail in and everything, and being led around on a leash, and they loved it. That's not for me, but some guys really love that isolation factor.
No, I think I know for me that might be a bit much, but listen, if that's you, shine on.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so listen, you discovered gaining first, and letters become a bit of a thing for you. I want to figure out for you, how does your idea and kinkness within leather inform your gaining and vice versa?
I think, like, okay, so we talked about how for me gaining has been an exploration of my masculine side,
Yeah.
and leather kind of does the same thing. They're kind of working in tandem with each other, because when I picture what I want to look like ultimately in my head is like the big leather daddy with big arms, big chest, big thighs, big ass, and a big old gut. Like that's what I see in my head when I see myself.
So Zangief.
Basically. Basically.
Zangief is hot. Oh my god. Quick segue though. Ralph, it's either Wreck-It Ralph or Ralph Breaks the Internet, but
Mhm.
he's in a room and Zangief is there in proportion, shirtless, all the rest in this kid's movie. And I'm watching this going, yeah, no, I've just that's gonna be a fantasy right there. That's me done. I'm good.
And I've seen so many leather daddies that look like that. That's what, honestly, if you want to go to a leather event for no other reason than just eye candy, I mean, these boys, like men, sorry, men, or well, just folks, I should just say folks and stop using pronouns. But, um, when they're confident and they're feeling themselves and they're walking around with everything hanging out, be it their big wobbly jiggly belly or their big round hard ball gut, like they are just in the moment. They don't give a flying fuck. They are like, I am the sexiest thing in the room. It's, oh God, it's so hot to see that.
I love that. I love that. And I think, in many ways, that's maybe something we do struggle with as a gainer community because everything's still kept very much on the down low, even at gainer events, because they're usually in public places for good reason. But, people can't really walk around shirtless and like grab each other and like have a good time.
Oh, you
But
can totally do that at leather events.
beautiful. Love that.
Of course, obtain consent.
Yes, yes, we're big on consent here on the podcast. Consent, very much so. Um, so you were saying that the community is really kind of open to people of all different sizes. Like it doesn't really discriminate on that front. So like,
I mean, you do see occasionally, so you'll know who they are when you go. You'll see the boys that are, sorry, I keep doing this. The folks that are very cookie cutter looking, the ripped abs and the perfect smiles and the, fake tans and like the obvious ones that are like trying to be porn star ready. You'll know who they are because they're just there for the aesthetic. They're just there to like look hot and get fucked. But anyone that's been around for a while, anyone who's like, understands kink as a lifestyle, they're totally open to all different body sizes, shapes. Like they're not going to judge you. They're not going to sit there and say, oh, you shouldn't wear that because it doesn't look good. They're going to be like, fuck yeah, you look fucking awesome. You
love that.
know,
I mean, I think that's really fantastic that there's a place that is so like body positive. But I do want to circle back for a minute. So I don't know if you intended to let it slip. That there are sometimes women who go along to these events, and look, we don't tend to speak about women on the podcast because we're both gay men. Our range of experience with the females is zilch.
yeah.
Aside from general human contact, it's not like I avoid them on the street like get away from me. Um, but like that's also a thing in the gay community. When women occupy gay male spaces, there tends to be a lot of sexism that goes on and a lot of shunting to the side and all that. So can you walk me through like what is it?
Unfortunately, there is a bit of a double standard there because, okay, so what I have noticed in my personal experience is that some leather women are totally accepted, like, oh, it's a leather mama, it's the woman of a certain age, usually over 40, she's decked out in her leather bodices and her dominatrix boots, carrying a riding crop, and she's got a leather cap on and everything, and they seem to be okay with that. Obviously they're not going to sleep with her, but they're like, oh yes mama, and yes queen, and all this other stuff, like just, yeah, totally worshiping it. But then when it comes down to like, say, a lot of these events try to set up play spaces, right? They want you to be able to indulge in your kink in certain ways. Like obviously it can't be actual sex for either, for either gender or any genders. But like, because of state laws, depending on where they're happening, it's like there's these really stringent laws about what men and women can do in the same space.
Right.
And
Okay.
and the women feel pushed out because like, oh, there's this play venue but we can't take part because we have a vagina, and then the event coordinators don't really, here's the other problem though, the event coordinators, the people who actually put it on, don't do much to like try to work around that or include them or anything. They're just like, well, that's state law, so that's just how it is.
Right. So it's the whole like, oh, it's not my fault this is happening. But even though I
Yeah,
could maybe try to do something, we're not gonna like invest the time, energy, and resources because
yeah.
actually it's too difficult, which is frustrating.
Hmm.
Though I do imagine that that happens in all communities
Yeah.
as far as that's concerned. Um, so I mean, look, that's unfortunate to hear. But in that regard, makes me happy to know that women also have a space within that community. Like how open and inclusive to have women as well, and to at least on an appreciation level to engage with. I think that's fantastic.
Like at Claw, we had this one leather mama. She had been around for a long, long time with the organization. In fact, she had come from San Francisco, and she was there during like
Wow.
all this stuff happening, and beautiful, beautiful woman of color, always decked out to the nines, always looking fantastic and fabulous, and had all of these gay boys just doting on her, these big leather daddies just doting on her. And I'm also a puppy, worth mentioning. So during one of the puppy mosh pit events that we were having, Mama came in and she sat down with her martini and she was just sitting there with her legs crossed, watching the puppies play. And so then we saw that it was her, and we all run over, we start howling and barking, and she's like, "Oh, let the puppies play."
I love that. It's very the like, do you ever see the Aristocats?
Uh-huh.
Like the eccentric cat lady who, she had a butler who looked after her for years, but who did she leave her money and estate to? The cats.
Mm-hmm.
That level of insanity. I also just live for like a grand dame. I live
Mm-hmm.
for a woman who just owns her like mama status and authority, and she'll just sit there perched like, I am the one. And maybe there is a slight callback to a sexist time where play nice with the ladies, you can't be too rough with the ladies, and so girls can kind of get away with things. But like, obviously in that moment there's a reverence for it, and that's very like, as you say, respecting the elders, like respecting this older woman who comes across like matriarchal. Mama knows best, she's gonna get you with the hand if you speak out of line. I'm sorry ma'am.
Oh yeah, she always had her flogger or her whip with her.
Like I love that kind of a moment. I think that's fantastic. So
While we're on the subject still of women and gender issues within the leather community, I do think that it is worth mentioning that we do have a big blight in the leather community that we've got to make this better.
right.
I feel really ashamed to say that the leather community has a real problem with transphobia.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's really bad. It's like, okay, so like they give all the respect to the leather women, like the one I was just mentioning, because this is a cisgendered woman who, that's how she identifies. She identifies as a leather woman. But then you have someone who comes in and they might be in the beginning of their transitional period where they're still
Right.
physically presenting a bit more male, but they want to be referred to as she or her, and they're wearing, like the more feminine garb, like maybe a leather corset and a leather pair of booty shorts and high
Right. So there's a
heels.
way to dress, and leather in that moment helping you to express your gender identity more
Yes,
effectively in that moment. But from what you're saying, it kind of sounds like,
I have heard some very snide, very hurtful comments be made about people like that.
that's
And it's terrible, because here's a person who is struggling with a lot right now. They're trying to be how they feel on the inside. So not only are they changing everything about the way they're going to look on the outside, they're also dressing up in a way that is provocative, and it is a way that, they don't look any different than the rest of us, but because they're not fitting this very clear mold of either female or male, people are giving them grief. And
Mm,
it sucks, and I hate seeing that, and it's something that we have to work on. And they do this to women who are transitioning into men as well, because again, it comes back to this, like, leather is supposed to be this uber masculine thing, right?
right.
So if you're halfway in between, or you're trying to change from one to another, it's like, it's so stupid. And I see this happening with the old guard, because remember I mentioned old guard and new guard. This is where old guard has to evolve,
Right.
because these are the guys that have been around so long that they're like, everything's set in stone and everything has to
Right.
stay the same.
So certain words as well that they might use that aren't
Yes.
appropriate, and yeah. So I can see then where that comes in, and obviously it is a shame, because I think a lot of people like to make statements of, oh well, they're older, that's why they do the thing. I think age relates to the fact that back when they were an age when they were probably more on top of things, this was not in the zeitgeist. This was not a conversation that was being had. So that kind of thing was excused and given permission, and then they were never challenged on it. Then obviously later in life they're being told actually it's a different type of way, and they don't like to be told because they're thinking, I'm 60 years old, let me,
Yeah.
like, I'm too old for this. And to an extent I look at that, like, I see the human idea behind that. It's sort of like, what can a younger person teach me that I wouldn't already know myself? But then it's that moment of forgetting who you were when you were that age. Like, I'm still of the age, thankfully, where I'm still very very much trying to have my finger on the pulse of the political and what's happening. So I'm still trying to keep myself informed. And then if I encounter other people who are uninformed, I'm trying to be good with speaking to them and making it that thing. I think it would be to my detriment to really kind of give up on that. There'll be an inevitable moment where I'm not as engaged because my time is gone. It's time for the new people to do the thing. But I'd like to think that as I age, as new people do things and educate me, I really hope that I would be open and reciprocative to what they have to say and on board to go on a growth journey where needed. So,
Oh, but get this. So like with some of the leather daddies that I have encountered over the years, like totally okay with the boy category. If so, like if you've got someone who fits into the sub or boy category, they can be as flamboyant and as feminine acting as long as they look like yeah, so they can be very feminine acting. They can be, I mean, I'll even say prissy, and they're fine with that because they are equating that to a sub point of view, like a sub mindset. So like I am the dominant person, I'm the masculine, this is the feminine, and he can act that way if he wants to, as long as he always presents as a male. So like this huge hypocrisy there.
It's just weird. And, you know, again, I think we covered this in a previous episode, but I think like people holding on to this like idea of gender and like, I require a masculine moment in order for me to be horny. Like, do you? Like, because homosexuality is attraction to maleness, and maleness is not necessarily masculinity because I'm male and I'm not masculine most of the time. So, what does that matter? Some men don't have penises, some men have vaginas.
Very
So,
true.
what's the truth? Like, what do you like? I feel like people just don't probe themselves, both literally and
It's
physically.
interesting you say that because, you know, like a big aha moment for me in my life, something that I never thought I was going to like come to the realization of. I boiled it down to, if my brain tells me that what I'm looking at is a man, then I'm sexually attracted to him because I'm a gay man. So like if I look at someone and my brain says you're looking at a man, then I'm sexually attracted to that person.
Yeah.
If my brain says you're looking at a woman, obviously I'm not going to want to have sex with her, you know, because that's not the way that my brain's programmed. So like regardless of genitalia, like I don't care. That's like almost the very last thing that comes to mind is like if I see a transgendered person who's transitioning from female to male and I look at him and my brain says this is a dude, it's like game on because I'm like attracted.
100%.
It doesn't work the other way around, you know. And like I have known some leather men who have transitioned from females who are just fucking gorgeous and like so hot, and I don't know, I don't know if I'd like damned myself with that, but like that's it was a big revelation for me to come to.
I don't think it's a poor revelation to come to in the slightest. I think we all, especially in the modern era, need to really address that. Like, what are we really attracted to and what do we really value in sex? You know, as far as I'm concerned, maybe I don't have much experience with vaginas, but if I encounter a gorgeous man and he's got a vagina, I'm going to ask him very politely, I don't know what I'm doing. Please show me and teach me so that I can give you the best head you've ever fucking had. Because I don't care. Like, here's the thing, I've never cared about dick. I'm not into dick. I don't find dick attractive. I look at dick like, well, this is the fucking sausage thing that I've got to flap about to make him shoot. So let's just get to business. You know, so to my mind, it's no different if it was a vagina, because it's like, well, this is just the bit that they've got. Best get to it and learn how to do it.
It's so funny when people say like I don't you know, dicks, like okay, honestly, is any genitalia attractive? Because I hear people, especially my very power bottomy slutty boy friends, you know, like, oh, he's got such a beautiful dick. I'm like, is dick ever good looking? Is any genitalia ever good looking? Like, would you ever want to mount it on your wall and say, oh, that's a great dick? Like, no.
I don't know. See, I've been told I have a beautiful dick, and I've been told this by several people, and it's always a weird comment because I'm always like, what's beautiful about it? Like, I just don't have a frame of reference for what the fuck they're on about. Listen, if you think that, that's real nice. Draw a picture, you know, like illustrate it to me, write a poem. Let me know in some translatable form or another how the beauty gets out there, because I haven't got a fucking.
I could give you like a sonnet about someone's belly, but I couldn't do that about their dick.
And you know what? There you go. Like, we say this about the belly. It's like we're belly sexual. It's like if I had like my dick doesn't call the shots, my belly calls the shots. And that is such a real experience that so many people have parroted. We experience this. I feel like there's such gendered idea of how sexuality works that it is based on gender, or it is based on, the direction and the bit downstairs. Whereas for me, it's like my entire sexual identity is based on fat, which
Mine too.
one can have. So I think we need to really work on some kind of recoding on how we understand how sexuality even works on a basic level, because I don't think gaining is a fetish. I think it is a straight up sexual narrative, much like
Yeah.
heterosexuality, pansexuality. I think it is there. I
Yep,
don't think it
I agree.
belongs under K for kink. I think it belongs in the extended acronym under G for gaining.
Yep.
And that is my straight up thought. I was gonna ask something. So oh gosh, I had this question. I can't remember if it was about gender or not. Oh, should have written it down when I thought of it.
No, it's okay.
What is the biggest misconception about the leather community?
I think that a lot of people just they assume that all leather people are into BDSM, and I understand why they do that, because they seem so intertwined, as if you couldn't separate them. But I described how some people are into leather purely for the aesthetic, like just wearing it or seeing someone else wear it is enough to get them hot. So that doesn't immediately mean that they want to be spanked or flogged or choked or any of the other, myriad of kinks that come along with it. Like I am far less BDSM than I am like a leather person. Like I'm willing to do certain things in the BDSM realm, but there's a lot of it that's not for me. Like I don't want to be flogged. I don't want to be spanked. I don't want to be vacuum packed. I don't want to be tied up. I don't want to have hot wax poured on me. I don't want to be electro-stimmed. There's so many things that I don't want to do in that realm. So I think that people just assume that you scared the shit out of me. What'd you say?
They all sound fun.
They all sound. I know.
Not vacuum packing.
Not vacuum packing, no. But anyway, sorry.
Tell him that's going to be on the podcast.
Oh, he says that's going to make it onto the podcast.
I don't care.
Oh, he doesn't. He didn't care.
I don't have any shame.
I know he has no. He's zero shame. He gives zero fucks. If you do include this, listeners, that's my boyfriend in the background talking. But yeah, like I was saying, I think that they just assume that those two things cannot be separated, and they definitely are.
No, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, I think learning more about the leather community tonight and just how it intersects with so many different things, it almost feels unintelligent to just assume that everything kind of comes in one package deal. Like it seems more like a Care Bear, like build your own, choose your own adventure type of situation. Like learn what kinks works best for you and engage in those.
Yeah, I still think it's a great gateway. Like if you have no experience with kinks whatsoever, leather's a good gateway.
Every city's got a leather bar too, and it's usually called the Eagle.
I can't hear you. What?
I mixed two fetishes to come up with something awesome.
What?
Vorophilia.
Yes.
Vacuum packing.
Yes.
Combine them. You role play as a freeze-dried food.
Be gone.
You role play as a freeze.
It's a thing now because I said it out loud.
It is. Be gone.
Like you go to Walmart and you go to the frozen section and you pick up a vacuum sealed steak and you're like, I want to saute that with my fuck butter, like oh my god. But then I have a very awful joke. I think I've told you this before. It's like if you were it's an awful joke, listeners. If you were a necrophilic pedophile with a penchant for bestiality, would you fuck an omelet? Like it's just
oh crap. Well, that crosses over with what is it, splooshing, that stuff that thing where you involve food and sex. What is that called? Smoshing?
Oh, I think that's Splodging,
or splodging. I knew it was something splooging, whatever.
splodging, splodging, sloshing, sledding, sledging, cool runnings, 1990s.
Paul's undies upstairs.
What do you say?
Just some of the dogs passed out on the bed.
Okay. I've got one last real question for you, which is, what do you think the gaming community can learn from the leather community, and vice versa?
I think that they can learn from each other. Like, so if gainers can learn something from leather, it's honestly, it's like the body positivity stuff, and like the feeling confident, the feeling at home in your skin. Because like the events I keep talking about where the people are there and they're just loving themselves and like zero fucks given about, you know, anyone criticizing the way that they look, and just, you know, living in the moment, feeling themselves. And I don't know, like I feel, so I'll give you, I don't know if this is really going to work as an example, but this is something that I was very happy to see when I went to Claw a couple of years ago. And I felt like this was kind of the culmination of body positivity, gender acceptance, and just letting people be who they are, right? So there was this guy that was there, and he did present as a male, so I'm going to say guy, and he did identify that way. So there's a guy there. He was feminine acting, you know, I think towed the line. But he came out of a hotel and walked down a city block wearing a full-on rubber cat suit, right? Okay. And also had on kitty ears, like he had on a headband with kitty ears, and was walking in 6-inch stilettos down a street, you know, in full view of traffic and pedestrians and everything. And I was like, fuck yeah, kid, like you fucking go. Like, I think that's like the level of confidence and acceptance that like we could learn from the leather kink community. It's like, because that guy did not give a shit what anyone thought of him. He was gonna prance his ass down that city block, just like, here I am, deal with it, you know. And what leather can learn from gaining, just that there's a lot more. I mean, I guess because it's a kink that I don't think they paid much attention to, you know. So more inclusivity with the gainers, like realizing that there's a crossover there. And also, like, just because you may be a leather person who's not into gaining, but if you got a bigger body, if you got a bigger belly, you don't have to be afraid to show it off, and you don't have to be worried about us looking at it either. Like, hell, play it up, even play that part of yourself up. Like, be like, hey boys, just push it out, show it off, let us come up and rub it with your permission. Like, you know.
I love that. I often think, like, and maybe that's something, you know, I think we spoke about this just on the last episode, actually. You know, guys who are, they're big and beautiful, they're just gorgeous, but, you know, because of the fat shaming and the fat phobia that exists in the world, they've gotten to a place where they don't feel good about their bodies. I think if there is a gift that gaining can give the world, it is not even fat acceptance, it is fat adoration, fat love, fat worship. Like, we will give it to you every goddamn time because we just love the stuff. We can't get enough, you know. And yeah, so to anyone out there listening, show me your belly.
Because honestly, I don't know about you, but that's always the first place I look. You know how someone says, oh, I noticed your eyes first, or I noticed your smile first. Sorry, I noticed your belly first. It was a place my eyes went to right away.
Absolutely. And when they go to the bathroom, you better believe I am looking at that dump truck in the back. I am just eyeballing everything.
You know, and something that's just funny about me and the way that I've progressed in the acceptance of myself and my body image and everything. So like, I told you I went to a leather night just recently. And I went wearing my jeans, my boots. I wore a leather vest. At one point, I had taken my shirt off, and I'm just letting it all hang out. And so I go into the bathroom, and there's this big, long mirror. And so I stop, and I snap a shot of myself in the mirror, just letting it all hang out and decked out. And, you know, there's other people in the bathroom. I didn't give a fuck. It's like, I look damn good right now.
Oh my gosh, those nights when you look at yourself in the bathroom, and it doesn't matter if you're 3 sheets to the wind, like when you know you look good, you're like, I need to take a picture of this and I need to fucking love my goddamn self because I look good.
And I will send you that photo so that we can put it out with the episode.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. In fact, while I'm sitting here, let me make that as a note. Tim in leather, looking gorge. And that's the note I've written down word for word. So before we wrap things up, is there anything we've missed on leather?
I mean, there's so much, like we could devote more episodes to it, honestly, because there's so many different avenues in this world that one can traverse. And I haven't even seen all of it yet. You know, I will never forget, I think it was either 2 years ago or maybe the year before that, one of my friends, who's a little leather bear cub, cutest thing in the world, he's just involved in any, like he'll try anything once, like he'll just let you know. So I remember I was getting a coffee or something at the hotel concierge counter or whatever, and he runs up to me and he's all excited and he's like, you know, he's like doing like this, and I'm like, well, what's going on, Cody? He's like, I found somebody who will shave my balls with a straight razor. And then he runs off and I'm like, well, have fun, babe.
Not gonna lie, that kind of low-key sounds like me. Just this excitable little Energizer bunny just making a dang fool of himself. But you look at him and you're like, oh, he's so crazy and cute. Look at him go. It's a little wind-up toy. But look, I think we've reached the end of our episode this week. Thank you for spending some time educating me and the listeners on leather.
And I'm happy to do so. And I hope that when Claw officially returns and it's in Cleveland, I mean, I'll extend an invitation to anybody wherever you are, because we do get international people. We've had people from the UK come. So, I mean, I will invite you to come and enjoy yourself and just experience a leather event for the first time, you know, because we're big on education. We're big on acceptance. You know, it's a great community. It really helped me come out of my shell and become a confident person.
That sounds amazing. And I love that. I love that for you. As a friend who adores you, I love hearing that you had the opportunity to have that journey. So listeners, if you're in need of a bit of a body journey and a bit of a self-confidence and trying new things, look up your local leather chapter. Just type it into Google, really, wouldn't you? Like just leather gay.
Yeah. I'm sure you can find a leather bar if you're living near a major city. Most of them have them. You know, depending on where you're living, sometimes you might be a bit more isolated, so you might have to travel a state over. But you know, there's usually something going on, and hopefully, when Rona's gone, it'll all come flooding back.
Fingers crossed. The bars are usually called the Eagle, in my experience. So
yeah, there's quite a few Eagles all over the place. That's a very popular name for leather bars. Ours is called the Leather Stallion.
Oh, that's hot. Leather Stallion, boy.
And it's, you know what, honestly, I love this bar, but it is the tiniest hole in the wall piece of shit bar.
But it
is so small, but it's, you know, it's ours.
I love that. Listen, when I'm in Cleveland, I'm gonna have to see this bar.
Yeah, I'll definitely take you.
You'll stand me in the middle of the room and make me do a 360 and be like, this is it. And I'll be like, okay,
welcome.
I'm here. Well, listen, thank you everyone for joining us again this week. That's a wrap here on Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave a good review. As always, you can find me on Grommr and Instagram at stannnum, and Twitter and YouTube at stannnumg.
And you can find me on Grommr as Orpheus. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at ThickyMouse. And of course, you can find more of what we've talked about today on Instagram and Patreon at Thicc Radio. So until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Patreon and Enter app podcast produced by Stan and Thicky Mouse.
Mixed and mastered by stannnum.
Our artwork is provided by Lokitu.
Our theme song is provided by Body by Cream.